struggle sessions in the military now where they're against Christianity, they're against white men. Everybody is a colonialist now, et cetera, et cetera. So,
and that is one of the biggest concerns that I have with the military right now is the lack of leadership and the lack of direction that our military is going.
They're not actually trained to just follow orders. They're trained to question.
You got to rip out the tampon dispensers. You got to bring back sweet, sweet masculinity and rebuild that fighting warrior culture that we once had.
Our country has unlimited money to arm foreign nations and their militaries.
The only solution that we can come up with is, hey, you know what, let's help you commit suicide. It's absolutely ridiculous, and this government should be ashamed.
Adam Soos here for Rebel News. Canadian Armed Forces members understand that in serving their nation, it can sometimes mean putting their lives, limbs, and mental health on the line. What they ask for in return for this formidable sacrifice is that when they return from duty, that they not be forgotten. All they ask is that Canada holds up its end of the deal, which is a small price to pay considering what some of our veterans go through in the line of duty. A price that, according to Justin Trudeau and company in Ottawa, is more than Canada can give right now.
Because they're asking for more than we are able to give right now.
Veterans ask that they not be forgotten, but it has become far worse than that. They are being discarded. A Veterans Affairs Canada employee offered 4 veterans medical assistance in dying instead of the help that they were so desperately seeking.
This is not compassion. It's psychotic. Who's in jail for this? Counseling somebody, pushing suicide on somebody and encouraging them to commit suicide, whether it be through euthanasia or not, is a criminal code offense up to 15 years in jail. So where's the jail time?
And it isn't only veterans getting a raw deal. Current armed forces members are ill-equipped and underfunded, with a National Defense Report recently suggesting that half of the military's equipment is unserviceable. Despite immense public support for properly funding our armed forces, not to mention international support and pressure for Trudeau to actually meet his NATO target defense spending, Trudeau simply refuses to do the right thing by our servicemen and women. I'm on location at Legacy Place in Red Deer, Alberta, where Canadians for Truth, in collaboration with Veterans for Freedom, is hosting an event where veterans are actually being listened to, unlike what we see from politicians in Ottawa, and they are discussing the issues shaping Canada's future from a perspective that only they can provide. If you are interested in learning more from these incredible veterans and speakers, their full presentations will be available soon at canadiansfortruth.ca.
Veterans are treated a little bit different in Canada. Canada is not a militaristic nation like they are down in the United States. But we do have some expertise to bring to the tables in certain aspects, and we believe we have positive messaging and solutions of how we can get our country back on track.
It is a shame what's happening. I feel that we're just not getting the care that we need. Everything's a fight. When you go look at Veterans Affairs, everything, including even the fights that I've had to have, or some of the other guys, and it's sad when we have to reach out to organizations. I know Veterans for Freedom's helped out other vets like myself to try and get us the care and the services that we need for injured, disabled, and still serving vets. It's something we definitely need more of.
it's shocking to be in the military right now in Canada, or to be a veteran in Canada. We heard Trudeau tell that one guy, the corporal in the PPCLI, you're asking for more than we can give. We just can't give you any more. Yeah. We don't have the money.
Why are we still fighting against certain veterans groups in court? Because they're asking for more than we are able to give right now.
And then he turns around and gives $5 billion to the Paris Accords, which we can't track. We have no idea where the money went. So, yeah, it's not actually a money issue. It's Trudeau, when he came to power, in fairness to Trudeau, he told everybody he wants Canada as a post-nationalist state, which means open borders. It means Canadian institutions such as the military, the RCMP, Elections Canada, you name it. Those institutions are less and less important to him.
Our veterans deserve our utmost respect. Every veteran that goes out there and risks his life so that we could live in freedom. I mean, we should be bowing down to these guys, so it's always annoyed me to no end how our governments have abused and not given our veterans the respect that they deserve.
Well, you look at the way our military is right now and how it's sort of into a steep downfall. Yeah. And you have to wonder why. Like, why we can't get that backing. The military, we're supposed to be spending at least 2% of our GDP, and we're not even coming close to that. Right. So, when it comes to funding and it comes to morale and it comes to leadership, we're just not seeing it, and that's why we're seeing the decline in the military, and people are just as frustrated in the military as they are in society right now.
How critical and how important is it to have had veterans in Ottawa, soldiers in Ottawa, people who managed to maintain peace, managed to maintain order, and despite what politicians were doing, managed to maintain some of the Canadian dignity and values that are so central to those who are still adhering to sort of the old era of Canada?
Well, I think their presence there speaks volumes about, what we're facing in Canada today, and it was such an honor to have them there. And, I think you remember when they put the fence up and the vets came and took the fence down. These guys knew what was coming, and they came to protect us, which is what they were trained to do, So, yeah, it was beautiful. It was a true honor to have them there.
Is the lack of funding, is the undermining of our military part of some foreign operation?
It would certainly seem to fit with that pattern. That's the kind of thing that we wouldn't be able to confirm at this point.
Right.
But Sun Tzu said in Chapter 3 of The Art of War, attack by stratagem. Stratagem is a plan to deceive the enemy. And of course, the Chinese Communist Party is quite Marxist, Maoist. They will attack by praxis, ideological battle space.
When they brought a mandate in for the military, I got approached by thousands of people trying to save their careers. And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to bring a COVID lawsuit in Canada. That was just never going to fly. So instead, we hunkered down and went dark and deep and pulled a whole bunch of information. And in June of 2023 and again in September of 2023, we ended up bringing 2 mass torts for abuse of power in the Canadian Armed Forces. This has been a problem in the forces for decades.
Us as a society needs to take care of those soldiers and whatever injuries they have. So it's something that we hope will change when it comes, when the Conservatives hopefully get into power, and they have to start listening to some of the veterans and people in the community who actually care about what's happening to the vets.
The Army has, I would say, lost its principle, lost its fundamental way of thinking. Everything's gone woke now, and they're trying to, push more for diversity, inclusion, DEI politics instead of the fundamental basics of soldiership.
Anti-Canadian. So I think that we're heading to a place where we'll have the kind of military that's not so good for fighting wars, but perhaps just oppressing its own people, more like they have in China.
Other institutions become more important. The United Nations, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization. So for veterans, it's kind of a shock to say, we were sent over there. Yugoslavia, Iraq, Afghanistan, Mali, the Golden Heights, Cyprus, you name it, in order to advance Canadian values, in order to advance democracy, in order to advance freedom. And now we're coming back to Canada. A lot of our guys coming back, I came back, and we discover wow, all the stupid stuff we saw over there, the oppression, the lack of free speech, the violence of the government upon its own citizens. Now we come back and we're seeing it here. So people are asking, why are veterans involved in the convoy? Why are they involved in this? And it's we want to bring a message to people that says, we've seen stupid overseas, Yugoslavia, Iraq, Afghanistan. And now that we're back here, we're seeing it here in Canada, and we're saying we need to push back on this now before we wind up looking like Venezuela.
When we were in Ottawa, and they played a really critical role in maintaining an organized, legal, peaceful protest, especially the day-to-day operational. They played a critical role there.
Do you think that sort of sense of abundant duty is causing a divide, some feeling loyal to their nation, others following orders?
Well, you know what, you can be as loyal to the nation as you want to be, and you can follow orders. But at some point, you have to be able to challenge the things that are going on. You have to be able to challenge the leadership.
Well, I can tell you that there's a lot of regret for obeying the order to be vaccinated. Probably not helped by the fact that there were people who should have been kicked out who managed to work the system in such a way that they're still serving and they're not vaccinated.
One of the main guys who's been speaking out is General Michel Maisonneuve.
Our experience has shaped our opinion that Canadian values are being destroyed due to a lack of leadership and a woke movement that panders to narrow special interests.
He's the only general who's spoken out against the woke nonsense and everything that's destroying the Canadian Armed Forces, but he's one. There should be 10, 20, 30 of these retired generals and admirals who are speaking out against what they've done to the military and for veterans as well.
Trudeau doesn't like old stock Canadians. He doesn't like Canadian values. He doesn't like Canadian ideas. So the military is in what we would say is a state of managed decline. He won't come out and say, I'm going to get rid of it. but he'll just keep bringing it down, weakening it.
One of the sort of more shocking stories we heard was veterans seeking help, being offered maid assistance in dying. How heartbreaking is that for you to hear that someone simply requesting help was being like, would you maybe like to die instead? How terrible is that for the armed forces?
You know what? There's nothing more demoralizing than to be offered to commit suicide, to help you to commit suicide when you've already given so much to sacrifice for your country.
All of this special pandering to people or their hair color, whatever, is not what our military is supposed to do. I want protection from our military. Can they handle a weapon? Are they prepared to fire a weapon? Are they skilled at what they need to do?
We need to look after Canada first. We need to take care of our own troops. We need to get them the right equipment and the right training. We need to defend our country first. Like we've sent, $19 billion to Ukraine. Canadian Armed Forces units have had to give back equipment so that our country can then send it to Ukraine. That is ridiculous.
Unfortunately, Canada's to a point now, whereas where there used to be a crisis or a meeting, Canada went to sit at the adults table. Then it was kind of like, well, Canada goes, but they get to sit at the kids' table. And now it's like Canada's not getting invited to some of these things because we're not seen as a serious player anymore. And that I think is really bad.
The Canadian forces lack leadership, they lack quality leadership, but that's no different than our country right now. We lack the effective leadership and we lack the compassion. And in my opinion, we need to get back to family and community. And that's where that brotherhood in the military becomes really, really strong.
Our country has unlimited money to arm foreign nations and their militaries, but when it comes to our military, it's a complete nightmare, and it's this bureaucratic process that almost never works.
I was just so angry and so frustrated, I actually wrote this book called Eyewitness to Deceit. And basically what it does is it outlines the government's information campaign against the convoy and then takes it apart piece by piece by piece, just to show how bad the disinformation and misinformation was at the time.
Our capacity to share these important stories is contingent on your support. We don't get government handouts, and frankly, we don't want them. And that is why we are able to tell the other side of the story when no one else will. If you want to support our work, including everything from the gas it takes to get out to an event like this, to the equipment needed to film and produce these reports, please consider chipping in at rebelfieldreports.com.